Life with siblings, they say, is either a joyous ride or a relentless torment. Mine, unfortunately, fell into the latter category. My sister Elena was 6 when Maya, was born. Our parents, thrilled at the prospect of 2 daughters, had meticulously planned our lives even before we took our first breaths. Our names, our preferred colors, even our supposed destinies were all laid out, a pre-written script we were expected to follow without deviation. From the moment I entered the world, I felt an immense pressure to emulate Elena. She was the epitome of perfection in their eyes, beautiful, athletic, and effortlessly charming. Everyone adored her, from new classmates to casual acquaintances. She cast a long shadow, one I struggled to escape. I wouldn't call myself average, but in the distorted reflection of my parents' expectations, I was always less than. They wanted me to mirror Elena's looks, her interests, her personality. Any attempt to forge my own identity was met with disapproval and disdain. At an age where self-discovery should have been my priority, I was trapped in a gilded cage of their making. Growing up in Elena's shadow, I craved my parents' attention and validation. Even the smallest crumb of praise from them would make my day. It might sound pathetic, but their approval was my sole source of self-worth. Elena, meanwhile, relished her role as the favored child. She was my tormentor, a master of subtle cruelty. When I graduated high school as valedictorian, a proud moment that should have been shared with my family, my parents were conspicuously absent. They chose to attend a party Elena was hosting at our summer house, dismissing my graduation as insignificant. That was my breaking point. I realized I needed to escape their suffocating influence to truly live. I chose a college as far from home as possible, eager to finally breathe free. College was a revelation. I immersed myself in my passion for English, a subject my parents deemed unworthy. I made genuine friends, people who valued me for who I was, not for my connection to Elena. For the first time, I experienced the joy of true friendship, love, and self-expression. When I graduated college, surrounded by my friends and my boyfriend, David, I didn't bother informing my family. I knew they'd manufacture another excuse to miss it. I secured a job, moved in with David, and began building a life of my own. My parents' occasional calls were always dominated by news of Elena's achievements. They never inquired about my life, and I no longer had the energy to try and bridge the chasm between us. After a few years, David and I got engaged. The news was met with a surprising show of interest from my parents, though their enthusiasm quickly waned when they learned that David came from a modest middle-class family. They had envisioned me marrying into wealth and social status, just like Elena had. Their thinly veiled disappointment stung, but I chose to ignore it. Elena, predictably, was the last to know about the wedding. She never missed an opportunity to express her disdain for me and my choice of partner. Her words were like daggers, but years of enduring her barbs had left me numb to her cruelty. With the help of my friends and David's family, we planned a simple, intimate wedding. We wanted a celebration that reflected our love, not an ostentatious display of wealth. My parents, however, were dissatisfied with our vision. They insisted on last-minute changes to accommodate a larger crowd and more extravagant decorations. Their interference annoyed me. "This day is about us," I told them, my voice firm despite the tremor of anxiety in my chest. "Please let it be." Elena, meanwhile, seemed to struggle with the idea of a day focused on me. Every encounter was laced with her disapproval, a constant reminder of my supposed inferiority. On the morning of my wedding, my parents called with the devastating news. They wouldn't be attending. Elena was throwing a party for her 7-year-old son, and they felt obligated to be there. Their tone implied that I should understand, that their absence was somehow justified. "I'm getting married," I choked out, tears welling in my eyes. "For God's sake!" The realization hit me like a physical blow. I would never be a priority in their lives. It was a painful truth, one I had tried to deny for years. David's parents, my in-laws, rushed to my side, offering comfort and support. They were the family I had always longed for, showering me with unconditional love and acceptance. David was furious when he heard about my parents' absence, even suggesting we postpone the wedding. After a moment of quiet reflection, I made a decision. "Let's continue," I said, my voice shaky but resolute. The wedding hall was filled with the people who truly mattered. My parents' absence was a stark representation of their place in my life, or rather, their lack thereof. The ceremony was beautiful. Everything David and I had dreamed of. Later, I noticed missed calls and texts from my parents, all updates about Elena's party. Not a single congratulatory message. That's when I knew it was time to sever ties. I called them, my voice trembling with a mixture of anger and sadness. "You're no longer a part of my life," I declared before hanging up and blocking their numbers. Fury coursed through me. How could they be so oblivious, so cruel? Almost a week later, my parents arrived at our apartment, demanding an explanation for my sudden estrangement. I laid bare years of accumulated hurt, the constant neglect, the relentless comparisons to Elena, the feeling of being perpetually invisible. Their response was predictable. They claimed their actions were motivated by love, a twisted, conditional love that left me feeling more empty than ever. I scoffed at their hollow justifications. The truth was never palatable, but I had learned to embrace it no matter how bitter the taste. My in-laws arrived just then, surprised to find my parents in our home. Sensing my distress, they gently inquired if I wanted them to leave. I nodded, and they calmly asked my parents to go. This seemingly innocuous request ignited a firestorm. My parents accused me of using my in-laws to make them jealous, praising Elena for her supposed gratitude and obedience. They even stooped to insulting David and his family. That was the final straw. A primal scream erupted from my throat, years of suppressed anger and pain finding release. "Get out!" I yelled, my voice raw with emotion. They were taken aback, but eventually left, leaving a trail of bitterness in their wake. My in-laws embraced me, their comforting presence a balm to my wounded spirit. But the pain lingered, a dull ache in my chest. It hurt to acknowledge that my own parents had never truly loved me. A few weeks later, I stumbled upon Elena's Instagram post. There she was, posing triumphantly beside my bike, the caption proclaiming it as her own. Tears welled in my eyes. That bike, a symbol of my hard-won independence, purchased with my own earnings after my parents refused to buy me a graduation gift, was now hers. The emotional attachment I had to that bike was profound. It represented my freedom, my resilience, my refusal to be defined by my family's expectations. During the chaos of wedding planning, I had arranged for it to be shipped to my new apartment. It had been difficult to take it with me to college, so I had left it at my parents' house, notifying them of my intention to retrieve it later. My voice shook as I called Elena, demanding an explanation. Her response was chillingly casual. "It was a gift from Mom and Dad," she said, her voice dripping with smug satisfaction. Betrayal washed over me. I confronted my parents, their initial surprise quickly fading when I raised the issue of the bike. They argued that since I was married and had better in-laws, the bike was no longer a necessity. They had gifted it to Elena, who had apparently coveted it since the day I bought it. Not out of genuine desire, but simply because it was mine. My blood boiled. "Bring it back," I demanded, my voice shaking with rage. They refused. Left with no other option, I filed a case against them. A decision that shocked them to their core. They accused me of being ungrateful, indifferent, but their words fell on deaf ears. My husband and in-laws were equally stunned. They knew how much that bike meant to me. My in-laws offered to intervene, but I knew my parents wouldn't treat them with respect. David and I went to the police, the wheels of justice slowly grinding into motion. My parents and Elena were summoned for questioning. They remained defiant, even threatening to escalate the legal battle. Their determination to punish me was staggering. For once, I was ready to fight. The case dragged on for 3 agonizing months, but in the end, justice prevailed. My parents were ordered to return the bike and pay a hefty fine as compensation. Their faces were contorted with a mixture of anger and disbelief. I walked out of the courtroom, officially severing all ties with my family. The weight of their absence was surprisingly light. I had my husband, my in-laws, a chosen family who loved and cherished me. There was nothing they could do or say to hurt me ever again. The courtroom victory was bittersweet. While I had reclaimed my stolen property and asserted my independence, a deep sadness lingered. The family I was born into, the one that should have been my haven, had become a source of profound pain. But amidst the sorrow, a new sense of strength emerged. I had faced my demons and emerged victorious. Life with David and my in-laws was a stark contrast to the emotional turmoil of my past. Their home was filled with warmth, laughter, and genuine affection. They embraced me as one of their own, celebrating my achievements and offering unwavering support during challenging times. I found solace in my work, pouring my energy into my career and building a life that was truly mine. The friends I had made in college remained my steadfast companions, their loyalty and understanding a constant source of comfort. Despite the distance I had created, the echoes of my past occasionally haunted me. I would catch myself wondering if I had made the right decision, if I had been too harsh, too unforgiving. But then I would remember the years of neglect, the constant comparisons, the stolen bike, and the unwavering support of my chosen family. One evening, while sharing dinner with my in-laws, I confessed my lingering doubts. David's mother, a woman whose wisdom and compassion had guided me through many storms, reached across the table and took my hand. "Maya," she said, her voice gentle but firm, "you have nothing to feel guilty about. You deserve to be surrounded by people who love and cherish you. You have found that love here, with us, and with David. Never doubt that." Her words were a lifeline, a reaffirmation that I had made the right choices. I had built a life filled with love, respect, and genuine connection. The family I had chosen was more precious than the one I had been born into. The journey to healing was not without its challenges. There were moments of doubt, pangs of longing for a connection that would forever remain out of reach. But with each passing day, the wounds of the past began to heal, replaced by a growing sense of self-worth and inner peace. I learned to embrace my own identity, to celebrate my strengths and acknowledge my vulnerabilities. I discovered the power of setting boundaries, of saying no without guilt, and of prioritizing my own well-being. The woman who emerged from the ashes of my past was stronger, more resilient, and more determined than ever to live a life filled with authenticity and joy. I had finally found my voice, and it was a voice that would no longer be silenced. Years passed, seasons turning in their ceaseless cycle, each one bringing new joys and challenges. David and I built a life filled with love and laughter, Our home became a sanctuary, a place where we could be ourselves, free from the judgment and expectations of my biological family. My in-laws remained my steadfast allies, their love a constant source of strength. We shared holidays, birthdays, and quiet evenings filled with conversation and shared meals. They were the family I had chosen, and I cherished them with all my heart. My career flourished. I found fulfillment in my work, using my voice to advocate for others, to empower those who had been silenced. The pain of my past fueled my passion, transforming my wounds into a source of empathy and understanding. The echoes of my childhood gradually faded, replaced by the vibrant tapestry of my new life. Elena and my parents became distant figures, shadows lurking at the edges of my memory. Occasionally, their faces would appear in my dreams, their voices whispering accusations and criticisms. But I would wake with a start, the warmth of David's embrace a reminder that those voices no longer held power over me. One day I received a letter from my mother. It was a rambling, disjointed message filled with apologies and regrets. She spoke of Elena's struggles, of her own failing health, of a longing to reconnect. I read the letter with a mixture of sadness and indifference. The words felt hollow, devoid of genuine emotion. It was too late for apologies, too late for reconciliation. The wounds they had inflicted ran too deep, the scars a permanent reminder of their betrayal. I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. I had moved on, built a life that was richer and more fulfilling than anything I could have imagined. The past was a closed chapter, a story I had finally finished writing. The freedom I had craved for so long was finally mine. I was no longer defined by my family's expectations, no longer trapped in the shadow of my sister. I was Maya, a woman who had overcome adversity, who had found love and acceptance in unexpected places, and who had finally learned to embrace her own unique path. Life continued to unfold, a tapestry woven with threads of joy, sorrow, and the quiet contentment of everyday moments. David and I celebrated anniversaries, weathered storms, and found solace in each other's company. Our bond deepened with time, a testament to the enduring power of love and mutual respect. My in-laws remained a constant presence in our lives, their love a warm embrace that enveloped us both. We shared laughter, tears, and the quiet comfort of belonging. They were the family I had chosen, the one that had nurtured me and helped me heal. One crisp autumn afternoon, while strolling through a park ablaze with fall colors, David turned to me, his eyes filled with a question I had often seen reflected in my own. "Do you ever think about them?" he asked, his voice gentle. "Your parents? Your sister?" I nodded, a bittersweet ache in my chest. "Sometimes," I admitted. "But the pain is different now. It's not the sharp, piercing hurt of betrayal. It's more like a dull ache, a reminder of what could have been." We walked in silence for a while, the crunch of leaves beneath our feet a soothing rhythm. Then, David spoke again, his words echoing my own unspoken thoughts. "I think it's time you forgive them, Maya," he said, his hand finding mine. "Not for their sake, but for yours. Forgiveness doesn't mean condoning their actions. It means releasing the burden of anger and resentment that you've been carrying for so long." His words struck a chord within me. Forgiveness. It wasn't about absolving them of their hurtful actions, but about freeing myself from the shackles of the past. It was about acknowledging the pain, accepting that it had happened, and choosing to move forward with a heart filled with compassion, not bitterness. The decision to forgive was not easy. It was a gradual process, a journey of self-discovery and healing. I revisited old wounds, confronted buried emotions, and slowly began to let go of the anger that had consumed me for so long. Forgiveness didn't erase the past, but it allowed me to see it with new eyes. I saw my parents as flawed individuals, trapped in their own patterns of behavior, unable to break free from the expectations and societal pressures that had shaped their lives. I saw Elena as a victim of their favoritism, her own insecurities masked by a veneer of arrogance and entitlement. With forgiveness came a sense of peace, a quiet understanding that allowed me to finally let go of the past. I didn't reach out to them, didn't seek reconciliation. The distance remained, a necessary boundary to protect my own well-being. But the bitterness was gone, replaced by a sense of compassion and acceptance. I had found my own path, a path that led me away from the shadows of my past and towards a future filled with love, authenticity, and the enduring strength of the human spirit. The journey had been long and arduous, but the destination was worth every step. I was finally free, not just from the constraints of my family, but from the chains of my own resentment. And in that freedom, I found true healing. Story 2. It's time to raise a chair. In the lounge today, we have another fantastic story for you. You end up using your queries as a kind of firing squad and transforming them into lectures on self-defense. You are much more valuable than being the subject of someone else's joke in the lounge today. The 54-year-old woman who would become my mother-in-law phoned me 23 foolish. I'm thinking of canceling the wedding now. How do I handle this situation? I'm 23 and engaged to John, who is 24. We have spent 5 years together. Our goal is to tie the knot in July 2025. We get along well, so I always assumed that his family liked me. 2 of his brothers are older than him. 29 men, 26 men. They both got married. To be honest, I was thrilled to have each of them as my in-laws. I always received kindness from them. Important information of some sort. A year or so ago, while browsing Instagram, I came across a quite embarrassing, yet adorable profile. The profile of an older woman had motivational sayings. One post in particular, which I recall, said something like, "Only idiots pretend to know everything. Don't act fake, simply inquire." To be honest, I was greatly impacted by this quote. Prior to that, I was constantly afraid that if I didn't know something, I would look foolish. After reading the remark, I also came to the realization that I would be missing out on opportunities to learn new things if I constantly pretended to know everything. I therefore made the decision to alter my behavior and begin acknowledging that there are instances when I truly don't know. The conflict in Kosovo is being discussed. All right, of course. Let me ask some questions first, though, so that I can fully comprehend what we are discussing. I also ask a lot of questions, and occasionally I even open the Notes app and put down some queries that I want to research later. These are my most recent. In the black hole, how does time function? Why? There are snails with and without shells. What kind of food is suitable for ducks? How do light bulbs operate? The old ones that contain gas. Do all people have the same color perception? How can we be certain of that? I apologize for the lengthy introduction, but it was sort of required to get a sense of who I am. I am aware that I could occasionally come across as obnoxious. Let's move on to the issue. Last weekend, his parents threw a little cookout, just for the family. Thus, it was the mother, 54, the father, 59, the brothers, 26 and 29 men, and their wives, 27 and 27 women. Due to having to work late, I was the last person to arrive. After entering the house, I heard John's mother discussing me as I was making my way to the backyard's back. She wasn't talking about me, to be honest, more like mocking me. I heard her say in a high-pitched voice, How does the sun work? Where should I put the fork? Why does nobody like me? How do I wipe my butt? I just stood there. I had this sinking feeling. I couldn't move. So I just stood there, and I heard them all laughing. One of the wives said I actually don't mind her always asking questions. I think it's cute. And it made me feel hopeful that they will say something like, "Yeah, sure, we're just playing. We love that." But none of them did. Instead, the mom replied, "It's not cute. She's just stupid." After that, they laughed again. I heard John laughing. My heart kind of broke in that moment because he didn't even say one positive thing. He didn't defend me. He just laughed. I quietly turned around and left the house. I texted John that I got sick and have to stay home. Now I'm wondering how should I approach the situation. We live together and I sleep in the guest bedroom for now, and I use the excuse that I don't want him to get sick from being around me. I can't ignore him forever, and I can't pretend to be sick anymore because it's been too long. I'm not sure how do I proceed. Maybe it was just a misunderstanding. I'm considering talking to them about this, but I'm also worried that they won't be honest with me. I can't marry him if he really thinks I'm stupid. But I also can't marry into a family who thinks so little of me. But maybe it was a joke, and I shouldn't take it so seriously. I'm so torn apart that every day I convince myself a bit more that it's okay. And occasionally, we should all laugh at ourselves. Now, I feel like I'm simply going mad. I would really appreciate any advice. Edit. There are numerous comments indicating that they cannot stand individuals like me. I agree that occasionally I might be a touch too much with questions. But with that being stated, I still think I'm within reason. I don't do it around individuals I just met. I rarely do that at parties or such gatherings. I usually do it with individuals who are close to me, who I think wouldn't criticize me, or the people who explicitly have knowledge about something and are eager to give it. If I am part of a conversation, I'm not disrespectful and I'm not interrupting. I generally only ask one or two questions. If a discussion is about the climate change, I'm not asking about monkeys, if you know what I'm saying. I'm also not a complete dumbass. I avoid asking questions that most people would deem stupid. Those are exactly in the notes, and you can check the answers online afterward. I take use of the fact that I can read. I still ask a lot of questions, though. That is a true roasting, I must say. However, at least you now have a clear understanding of your potential in-law's position. It's a serious red flag if John isn't standing up for you or at least admitting that his family's actions were, let's say, subpar. You may need to think again if he is unable to defend you when they are disparaging you. If you're willing to commit to a lifetime of uncomfortable dinners and insulting comments. Post an update after 3 days. I wanted to start by thanking everyone who contacted me with queries on light bulbs, ducks, sales, black holes, and other topics. For the other folks who told me to stop talking, I would adore having you as a friend. Whether or not you find me bothersome or difficult to be around doesn't really matter to me. That's fine with me. I'm not here to win over everyone, I'm only here to have fun. I learn and have my own hobbies. I'm really appreciative of the suggestions, but I didn't anticipate my post receiving so much attention. The majority of you advised me to end our relationship and at the very least, speak with him. I therefore made the decision to do that. You encouraged me and gave me the courage to accomplish it. However, I texted John's brother's wife first, who mentioned that she liked my questioning. I asked if we could get coffee together. Sure, she said. I didn't see the need to act as though I hadn't heard the talk when we first met. I just stated, I heard you all talking about me during the barbecue, after engaging in some small talk. She became depressed right after and expressed her embarrassment. Then, she clarified that it was no joke, it wasn't out of place, because it was simply hurtful and cruel. She apologized for not standing up for me more. However, he said, I understand. It's okay. I informed her that I don't hold her responsible for anything. I wanted to make sure that I understood the issue and saw it for what it truly was, which was bullying and backstabbing laughter about me. Now all I could do was go up to John. He will most likely try to gaslight me, according to a lot of comments on my previous article. You were correct, too. I did everything I could to avoid him, but this was the first time we had supper together since the BBQ. Yes, I realize that's not very adult of me, but aside from you guys, I don't have a lot of people to lean on. My closest friends and relatives live hundreds of kilometers away. Here, I only have 2 close buddies. I felt like I was going to faint from stress. I was scared, and my legs were trembling because I knew deep down that this was the time my 5-year relationship would end. "How does the sun work?" I questioned, meeting his gaze directly. He appeared perplexed. So, I put my fork down and followed. Why am I now disliked by everyone? When he realized, he began to laugh awkwardly. I claimed to have heard them and to have been there. He became angry once the initial astonishment subsided. He claimed that eavesdropping is impolite. I stated that bullying others is impolite. He attempted to reassure me that it was a joke and that I shouldn't be so stiff. That was hilarious. I went to the guest room to relax, after stating that I didn't think it was humorous. He began to panic. He was pleading with me to speak with him. He apologized much more and promised to be completely honest with me. I inquired as to if his mother had said anything similar before, to the cookout. "Yes," he replied. I inquired if he had ever stood up for me. "I try," he said. "I'm not sure if I trust him. He told me that he respects and loves me. I'm also not sure if I believe it." I said, "I need a break, but I love him too. I've only ever known him. My first and only partner was him. I don't see this from the outside. I don't have any experience. I need time to reflect. To give everything some thought, I'm going to spend some time at my friend's place. His name is on the list for the flat. In any case, he texted me often after I packed up my belongings and went. When he tried to call, I didn't answer. He attempted to minimize my feelings, which deeply wounded me. He only began to apologize after realizing that I would end our relationship. I returned to the flat the following day because I wanted to give him another chance to defend himself. He appeared exhausted and depressed. I overheard them. He claimed to have told his mother. "I don't care," I answered. "Now is his chance to take charge and let me know he's interested. I'm not interested in his mother apologizing. I'm done with her already. I can't stand it when people act like we're in elementary school and make fun of me. According to a comment I saw, her ego is most likely wounded. I believe that to be true. She never had the opportunity or the motivation to get an education. In addition to being an excellent housewife, she doesn't have many hobbies. She will lecture me for 30 minutes on adding just the right amount of sugar to tomato soup if I ask her how to make it. Anyone who wants to listen will get a lecture from her. However, she becomes defensive and tries to convey that no one is interested in anything that she is unfamiliar with. Furthermore, it shouldn't be discussed if it has no bearing on her. He attempted to reassure me once more that it was merely a joke and that I should calm down, but I was fed up by this point. I informed him that I couldn't be the punchline and that his actions were a joke after removing my ring. I wished him and his family well and advised them to examine themselves in the mirror to see if they truly were as good as they believed. I said, "I'll be back soon enough to pick up the rest of my stuff with my friends. Please don't get in touch with me again unless it's to discuss moving my belongings. I'm finished. I appreciate all of your advice. I wouldn't have the courage to leave this man without you." I am aware that I am worthy of better. Someone who is unable to defend myself is not someone I can be with. Additionally, I couldn't feel at ease in his family's presence. I've ended the relationship. I'm hoping they'll be more considerate to his next girlfriend. Once again, I appreciate your input, Reddit. Let's hear a few pertinent remarks. The first one. Continue to be inquisitive rather than critical. The OP responds in the same way. I adore that show. My ex and I watched it together, and it's hilarious that he didn't like Ted and, to be honest, thought his role was stupid and unrelatable. Everybody should occasionally have Ted's fortitude and optimism. According to a different commenter, OP, your ex-mother-in-law is still able to pursue further education. There is still time, and many people have. Her actions have no justification. Furthermore, her actions and words demonstrate her lack of education. The original poster responds, I also believe so. I think it's never too late to continue your education and learn something new. An elderly woman in her 70s recently graduated from my university, and everyone was incredibly proud of her and my nation. The entry hurdle isn't as high as it is in the US because university is free. For instance, the toughest part is over. You've achieved the pinnacle. I'm too good to be let go like this. I hope the upcoming chapters of your life are full of respect, sincere inquiry, and perhaps some friends that value your inquiries without making you feel bad about them. You've already shown that you're too intelligent for that. And the only dumb question is the one you don't ask. In all honesty, you're better off without John and his family if they can't manage your curiosity. Who wouldn't want to spend time with someone who occasionally challenges the status quo? There is a lot of mystery in the world. Asking inquiries is okay. Do you believe Opie was at fault? Please let us know what you think in the comments section below. We also appreciate your presence at the Hour Lounge today. To ensure you don't miss our next video, please hit the notification bell, like, and subscribe. I'll see you shortly, and return your chair to its original location.